Hello, hello, hello. I'm finally back in the garden. It is relatively warm today, and it feels good to be out in the garden here and making a video. Paul is on the roof fixing the leak where the two structures meet. That's another absolute terrible mistake that people have done in the past, and still I see still doing when they build constructions where they build. And I noticed the Republicans do this particularly, like where they build a completely new house, new structure, but they make the structure into separate compartments. It's interesting to observe because it's like the house is fragmented, just like their brains are fragmented. Okay. So this garage was built onto that beach house later on. The beach house was built in 1930, and the other structure and then some closets were built onto it later on, and it promptly leaks into it, and it's all total mistake of building anything, when you're dealing with harsh weather and rain and all of this. All of this is just, that's not a sustainable building solution at all. Okay, so I see this very clearly over the years, helping Paul, assisting Paul with his handyman work. I can clearly see that all of these structures, they leak and they get water damage, they get termite damage. The stuff is carbon based. It decomposes in time. It's not sustainable at all. I mean, it depends on whether people are protecting antique houses and stuff like this. And there are some antique houses here in this community that are from the 1800s, and some people buy this out of a collector's love, and then they take really good care of that, but they have to put a lot of money into permanent upkeep, so it's not a sustainable way of building or architecture in general. And I'm completely opposed to building with wood. First of all, wood, there should not be one more tree logged on this planet. Okay, that's for sure. We need every tree alive, okay, for the environment, for the animals, for our air. That's very important. The way to build from now on into the future is with plexiglass or other glass type of, or polycarbonate glass type of materials, and with stainless steel. Okay, that's how we need to build structures. They need to build, like, I don't know if you ever have been to the Getty Center in LA. I've been there several times. It's really amazing. It was built by Richard Meyer, famous architect. And my dad was there too. He really admired it. He was really in awe with this entire structure. So there's one foyer hall that when you come in, it is sort of like the first meeting hall, and half of that hall is basically a dome house. It's a dome structure, and I was in particular this was of particular interest to me because it looked like a spaceship. It looked like this was the front of like a really, really large spaceship, like a half dome coming over half, and then the other part was cement, and then it looks very, very futuristic, with very industrial, really, really thick white, with white gloss painted steel frames that are holding this plexiglass structure together. And I think, if I remember this correctly, the glass was also insulated. It had different layers, at least 2 layers within this steel frame. 2 layers of plexiglass, thick plexiglass, maybe even bulletproof. And that's what I would like to have: bulletproof plexiglass dome structure like this. So I asked an architect. He was very nice. He took time to explain all of this to me, and he said that would cost you millions of dollars. So if you don't have millions of dollars, I told him what our budget is. It's like, it's less than $500,000 for sure, and that has to go into all kinds of things. That has to go into buying land. That has to go into buying plants and all kinds of things. So I'm not even counting the architecture into it. So he said, okay, so you can have that if you get yourself a commercial greenhouse. So it's not that, it doesn't look that fancy, or it doesn't look that great or amazing and huge and futuristic like the Getty Center, but it will do its job. Okay, so you can get one of those commercial industrial greenhouses, dome tunnel greenhouses, for under 50,000. Okay. I don't know if they calculated the labor of setting it up into it. I sure hope they did, because that can run another $50,000. So just the labor of setting all of that up and all. But it's pre-manufactured. It is obviously, it's modular in the way that these parts are all normed, and they make these in large amounts, and you can buy that as a kit, and then you can assemble it. And if you use your own handy people or employees, which we don't have, so we would have to hire theirs. I don't know. I hope that work is included in the price, and that would be really nice, because that would be way too expensive, because we want to get 2 of those. So, and I keep telling Paul, we're not gonna have any of these problems in the future when we have the greenhouses. Okay? There's no more leaks, no more mold, no more damage, no more water damage, no more floors that are lopsided. In both houses, the floors are lopsided. So, and at the other house, the balcony is falling off, and the floor is warped, and they had major flooding because the pipe broke, because people didn't turn the water off during the winter, and then they left, and so that busted up the pipes, because when it freezes, and sometimes the winters where it can get below minus Celsius, below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, below the freezing point, then of course the ice expands, and it expands in a molecular way where it just completely busts up any kind of steel pipe. Okay. And then the steel will bend and crack, and then the water will gush out and flood the entire house. And that's what happened there before we got the house. So that's why it has all of these problems, and they didn't even use pressure treated wood for the balcony, for the deck, which goes like all the way halfway around the whole structure. So, and that's all like brittling apart one beam at the time. And he couldn't find a contractor. It's very difficult to find a contractor who is honest. And then most of them don't want to work for him because he's an atheist, and the word got around there. And it's all enormously difficult dealing with humans. Very, very, very. Everything could be so much easier. But I'm rambling on about this. I wanted to talk about Elliot Rodger, but ultimately all of this ties in with it. So ultimately. It all ties in one big, larger sort of image, in a larger picture, big picture from the sky perspective. So I want to talk about Elliot Rodger. You're probably familiar with that story. There was a murderer, mass shooter in Santa Barbara. I don't know when that was, like 10 years ago or something. And a young man who was studying at UC Santa Barbara, and he was living with guys together. He was half Asian, and he lived with Asian guys together. They were sharing an apartment. That was their student apartment that they were renting. And his father is a filmmaker. He is with Hollywood, and it's all infinitely sad. I mean, he really had everything that anyone else could just dream about. He also was good looking. He didn't think so, but he was. So he was very good looking, extremely good looking. So this is how I first saw Elliot Rodger. Paul sends me this video that he made on YouTube. He made a video in his new car, BMW, I believe it was. And I mean, so I turn on the video and I go, why is Paul sending me a BMW commercial? I thought we weren't going to buy a BMW. And I watched the video, and he says, you have to watch it all the way to the end, okay? You have to see what this guy is saying in that video. I'm like, what? This is a car commercial. This is a model making commercial for BMW. No, that's a mass murderer. He just murdered all of these people. He shot all of these people, and he drove over some. And so I watched a video that was like just a couple of weeks before he murdered the people. He made that video, and he was talking in his car. He made many of those videos where he was talking angry about the human species in his car, and in a way where he wasn't talking just angry at the neurosis of the human species, but he was talking angry he was feeling victimized, he was feeling stepped on, he was feeling abandoned by the human species, particularly by women. And he called all men brutes. So it's not that far-fetched, of course. It's kind of true. But he was coming from the mind state of he was being cheated, that mind state. Like, they all have love, they all have a relationship, they are all these happy couples, and he has nobody. His father offered him a high-end hooker. Okay, his father is very wealthy, he can pay for that. Guess what? He said, no, I don't want a high-end hooker. I want the woman to come to me. He wanted the girls to fall in love with him and offer themselves to him. So, and be head over heels with him and all of this. That's what he expected. But here's the hook in the story. Where whenever he went to a party, he had a very sour look on his face. He had a very angry look on his face. He looked at people with hatred, particularly at women with hatred. One time at a party, at some summer party, at some rich person's house, there were a couple of girls with their drinks standing by the balcony that was overlooking the pool, and I don't know, probably 2 stories high, like our balcony over the parking lot downstairs. You can really hurt yourself if you fall down 2 stories. And what did he do? His anger was building up so badly because he hated them, because he thought he couldn't have them. The sour grapes, So the hatred built up so bad that he tried to push them over the balcony. And some other guys saw that in the nick of time and were able to rescue the girls. And they pulled him out of the house, they dragged him down the street, and they beat him up real bad, broke some bones, and they left him there. And I guess one of the guys called an ambulance because one of the guys had some mercy and thought, I know he's a psychopath, but let's call an ambulance. And the ambulance came, they picked him up, put him in the hospital, he had to wear casts. And he wrote about this, He wrote a bio about himself in which he was telling these stories. And in that bio, he wasn't mad at these guys beating him up. He knew why they beat him up. He knew that was the consequence of his behavior. So he wasn't complaining about the guys beating him up. So he obviously understood that. But he didn't understand that if he is extremely hostile to women, that there's no chance for any woman to trust him and to come up to him and want to date him. Okay. That he didn't understand. He thought it doesn't matter how he behaves, the women should just throw themselves onto him and say, here, take me, I will be here for the rest of your life, I want to be there for you, I'll do everything for you. And so that's the kind of mind state that he had. So that's the Elliot Rodger story. So the women didn't come around to him, and eventually he snapped. He already collected a bunch of guns and weapons in his room. One of the roommates has seen that. I think they alerted, they called the police. His dad was very concerned about him. His dad contacted the police also, I think, and said something needs to be done. My son is in danger. Other people are in danger. There were some people that knew that there was something boiling. Okay, and the police came and they even went into his room. He hid the weapons. And he was very sweet in the way he communicated with them and acted like he's all innocent, and they didn't even do a search, they just left. And then a couple of days later, he took those weapons. He took his BMW and he drove through crowds and he shot a bunch of people from that university. Particularly the women. He particularly went into the women's dormitory and he shot, or from outside he shot through the window and killed some and injured others. The Elliot Rodger story should really shake people up, and there are many other of of those stories out there, particularly in the United States, okay? There are many of those stories of disgruntled boys or men that snap and go out killing people. The Elliot Rodger story is in particular that what I'm trying to address in my videos, because that is the other guys are that they have that's a very similar thing that's going on in their minds. Okay, they also feel disrespected by people, they also feel shunned by women, but not every one of those was so openly talking about this in a bio and so meticulously writing about this, so well spokenly writing about this as Elliot Rodger was. Highly intelligent boy, educated, everything. He even cared about he cared about stuff. He cared about he had compassion in him. Believe it or not, there was compassion in him. He cared about animals, dogs, horses, nature. He loved nature. He loved the environment. But this thing was the wanting a girl to come up to him and offer herself to him. That need, that want was so intense, and then it never happened because of his behavior. Okay, and he could never ever connect the dots, of his behavior connected with him being rejected. Okay, so he could not make the connection. So he behaved obnoxiously to people. That's been going on for many, many years before his death. Okay. He shot himself before the police got to him. Shot himself in his car. Because for him this was the end anyway. So the whole thing was end game for him. And I feel sorry for him. I really genuinely feel sorry for him. But this story of Elliot Rodger is really an eye-opener. It should be an eye-opener for people. That should be an eye-opener for the entire incel community. I believe that he was also associated with that, with this men walking their own ways. But they don't, okay? They don't walk their own ways. They want women even more. They go to join these groups and then they feverishly think about the women. They want them even more. There's one apple left on that tree. I can't believe it. And the birds come and eat from that last apple on the apple tree. Oh wow. That is so cool, is that? You got an apple over the winter. Oh my gosh, nice is that. The rat can't even get to that because that apple is hanging too high for the rat. But the birds can eat from it, so they're very happy to have that apple there. Oh, that's so nice. I haven't seen the rat lately. I think it's cold. I think the rat went into hibernation now. That's really lovely today. Lovely to be out here. It's important to go out into nature and just sit there and meditate and breathe in the air. Ignore the loud car sounds. Okay, go far away from civilization if you can. And just look into the trees. Look into that beautiful green. All these green shades. The spruce tree and English laurel behind me. Paul cut into that. I told him not to do it, but he didn't listen. the rhododendron trees. It's really nice here. It's really lovely. And I look into the sky, the blue god. I talk to the blue god a lot. I say, blue god, please protect all living beings. I say that a lot, at night too. I cry a lot. I cried a lot today because of the hacker, my worst hater. Always bullying me, always doing mind games, always mean. I don't know why. I guess because I'm nice. I'm always nice and loving. And some people don't like it. Some people don't like nice people. Or they think, oh, there's someone who is easy to pick on. They think I don't defend myself. They think I am a sitting duck. And they can just come over and bully me and have a blast. And made me cry. I don't know. I think that's really the only thing he wants for me is he wants to bully me and see me suffer. That's the only thing he wants. And it hurts real bad. Brings up my childhood in school, how I was bullied in school. Really, really severely bullied by girls and boys. We're severely bullied. They always tell me how ugly I am, or how fat. Always. I think they even called me icky. So all of that is like, it brings up my childhood trauma. My message to people who hate the way I look or the way I talk or whatever, my activism, my friendliness, if they hate me, if they dislike me or despise me that much, it's such an easy thing to do. You just block me and you never have to see me again. Don't have to see my photo again or my videos. It's really easy. I mean, it's not complicated or anything, Just you don't like me, you block me out of your life and you move on. You talk to other people instead. Watch other people's videos instead. Okay? You don't have to watch my videos. But I don't know, I guess they watch my videos because they like to hate someone. It's fun to hate someone. I don't know, I'm guessing on this. So they like to bully someone who's vulnerable, someone who's sensitive. They like to see them go into seizures. They like to see them go sobbing and be all devastated. I don't know why. I feel like it makes them feel tough or something. I don't know. Makes them feel like they won over me or something. I don't know. My brain doesn't function that way. I don't work that way. I always, whenever I went some places, and I saw there would be people standing in groups looking at me and laughing. Naturally, I would never flock to those people. I made a mistake once at the university in Berlin, and there were a bunch of girls sitting on the table in the dining area, and I got my lunch and I walked over there and I said, "Can I sit here on the table with you?" I have enough courtesy to ask, right? Because I didn't want to be imposing myself. And one of the girls looked at me with hatred and said no. So I said, "Okay, I'll go to the other table then." And then she said, "I was just messing with you." And today I would not go back to that table. I would still go to the other table where nobody was sitting. There were some girls that I was already talking to, and we had interesting conversations, so that's why I wanted to sit there. But I went back to that table, I sat down, and most of them looked at me with hatred, absolute hatred. Then after I ate lunch, I pulled out a chocolate bar. I passed around the chocolate bar. And the more I gave, the nicer I was, the more they looked at me with hatred. And one of the girls, her name was Nicola as well. She was my best friend from all of those people. And after we went back to the classes on the way, she told me that she could see the hatred in these other girls, and she could see how my friendliness and my giving was pissing them off. And I was wondering about this, I was really puzzled about it. Why would people be mad at me for being giving and loving? Okay, so it didn't make any sense at all. But I was glad to have the other Nicola there to talk to, and a blonde girl, about my age. And that was good. She had relationship problems with her boyfriend. I had relationship problems with my boyfriend, and we would cry on each other's shoulders. So that was nice that I had her as a friend. And then at the other university, after I had been in LA for 3 years, at the other university, I had some very sweet friends, woman friends as well. The men all behaved extremely weird around me. There was no way that I even could even have a conversation with them. It wasn't even possible. So one time I asked a guy if he would like to go hiking with, because I saw him looking at me. Every day he was looking at me. And I finally went up to him and I said, "Do you want to go hiking with me?" He said, "Hiking is for older people." And I felt like he was attacking me for being 3 years older than him or something. So, and I took offense and I was really hurt, and I sat there by the window crying. Then he came over and he looked at me again, but he just couldn't open his mouth. He just couldn't say anything. And I said, "What's wrong with that man? What is his problem?" So I I just cannot understand. I don't understand. We girls, we go up to each other and say, "Hey, come, let's go to the cafeteria, let's sit there together, let's talk, let's chat, let's eat lunch." Why is it impossible for a boy or a man to do the same with a girl or a woman? So maybe they can do that with each other, among each other. Not even that. I think they're so afraid of being of being a simp. You know, they're so afraid of being nice, particularly nice to women. If they think they're being nice to women, then they have to feel like a loser or something. I don't know. Some men told me they can't give. So what I'm just trying to understand all of this, trying to dig into this. You know, I'm making assumptions. I'm guessing. Ultimately, it's the people themselves who really need to find out, you know, what it is inside of them that makes them behave the way they do. It is infinitely tragic that Elliot Rodger could not make the connections between his hostile behavior and not getting a girl to like him. That's infinitely tragic. And then the hatred building up, you know, for he felt wronged that nobody would come up to him. Of course, you know, if I had been there, if I had been his professor or something, I would have taken him over to my side, and I would have said, "Kiddo, what's going on here? I see you're suffering, you know." I would have tried to talk to him. Most professors, when they see kids suffering, they don't even see it, first of all, you know. They're so busy with their own lives and their own drama and their own relationship stuff. I'm worried about Paul going on the roof, always worried about that, going on that tall ladder. That makes me worry. I don't even want to look. So, but you know, I'm grateful that there are compassionate people like Paul, okay, and I'm grateful for every single compassionate person who appreciates me and my kindness. And it's very puzzling for me to understand men, particularly men like Elliot Rodger. And the haters on the internet. It's very difficult for me to understand those people. It's impossible. I can't. And then the nicer I am to them, and particularly when I start catering to them, then they become more and more aggressive and hateful towards me. So, again, my message to the hacker is, if you don't like me, move on. Okay. Block me on all of your accounts. Move on. Don't talk to me anymore. Don't come to my videos anymore. That's my message to you. Okay. I don't want to go on your nerves. I don't want to be an imposition on anyone. That's why I like the internet, because people can turn that off. They can turn off the video. They can block me. Okay. The potential for blocking me. Okay. They have that option. Okay. But if they don't do it, if they continue to watch my videos to get more and more angry and aggravated because of what I'm saying, then that's really not my fault. Okay. That's not my problem. I don't deserve to be bullied. I'm a kind-hearted person, you know. I deserve to be liked and loved. At least, you know, be treated with decent respect, you know, as I treat the other people, on eye level respect. So every single person and every single living being deserves that eye level respect. Right? There's another living being. Let's be kind to that other living being. Okay, so that's my message to all of you. Take care. Bye.